He just kept talking in one long, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic so that no one had a chance to interrupt. It was really quite hypnotic.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo!
Jeff and I are Star Trek veterans, and Dory is a Star Trek rookie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the Season 6 episode, Timescape. Original air date is June 14th, 1993. And as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so we start off. Riker is being treated by Dr. C. He's got scratches on his face, and Dr. C's like, oh, maybe like cut out the pre-C squares. You're not like a young guy anymore. Nope. He wasn't injured by a sport. Riker was injured trying to feed Spot while Data is away at a conference. What I would have given to see Riker try to feed Spot.
Yeah.
That would have been incredible. But we did learn an interesting thing, that Riker hates cats, which is noted. But Dr. C loves cats, also noted.
It is, at least for me, it's a little bit of a tick against him.
Yes.
I think what it comes down to is that, like, this was the 90s when this was made. Like, is it cats or is it dogs? The shit is like, this was very much the should pineapple be on pizza discussion of the decade.
Yeah, like as someone whose main is cats as opposed to dogs, I'm used to like anti-cat rhetoric, so it's
What's up? I mean cats.
Yeah, I mean cats.
This is a pro cat podcast.
Yeah. At least, like, I have nothing against dogs, and like Dory, your main is dogs.
I would give my life for any dog I meet. Literally make eye contact with a dog, that my soul is yours.
Yeah. So I got no problem with that. So
yeah.
I'm like, yeah. But it's just like, I still like Riker. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But it is just kind of like, a little disappointing.
The facade has cracked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if anything, this gives Dr. C more points.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Riker is called to the bridge. They are picking up a long-range sensor from a Romulan ship. The Romulans claim to have suffered a complete engine failure and everything is plummeting. But they also... So Picard, Data, Troy, and Geordi are at a conference. So Riker is currently in charge. And they're going to rendezvous in 13 hours. Honestly, the countdowns in this episode mean nothing.
Yeah.
Well, it's so many.
Yeah, it's a time fuckery episode, so it means even less than usual.
And something fun about me, I'm not a time travel gal. I don't love time travel shit.
Yeah.
So this episode had me for a bit, and then it fucked me, and
Oh, really?
It lost me at one point. I'll tell you when. It was a very specific point.
It was written by our friend Brennan Braga.
It sure was.
Truly the bane of my existence.
However, it was directed by Adam Nimoy.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy's son.
I did notice Nimoy in the directed by. I did recognize
This is his
name.
second episode directed, because his previous one was Rascals, and they promised him that they'd let him direct an episode with adults after that.
Nice.
Was Rascals was the one when everyone was kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or when Picard was a kid? Oh, that was a good one though, wasn't it? I don't remember.
Yeah,
I just
fun.
remember.
Well,
Picard.
I've heard a lot of people say that episode is terrible or that it's very stupid, but
Did I like that episode? I feel like I liked that episode. I honestly don't remember. It's been a minute.
The thing is, it is stupid, but it's also fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, is that it is stupid.
Yeah.
So Riker decides to, in the meantime, check out the Romulan ship. Shields up, red alert. Meanwhile, okay, so now we got Data, Geordi, Troy, and Picard. They were attending a 3-day conference on the psychological effects of long-term deep space assignments. So I wrote, so them? Why did they not speak? It's just them. This is the show.
Yeah.
Let's just show the show. The show is the conference. That we did it. We're done. And so Troy is like, this professor propositioned her for interspecies mating practice research.
Yeah.
And she was like, hard pass, man.
Yeah. But she like does an impression of him too, and he's
she's
an
pretty
alien,
rules
but he
this
has a
episode.
Scottish accent.
Yeah. So Troy, she found the conference. Apparently everyone like thought it was kind of a bummer. Geordi had a good time because he got to like touch a plasma field.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually had thought at one point in this episode that Geordi touching a plasma field was the reason why everything was going to shit. That was my initial theory, and no, nothing to do with anything. That was just an anecdote. Picard also does a Dracula impression, but not of Dracula. It's just supposed to be a different guy, but it was, to me, a perfect impression of Dracula.
Yeah. It's a similar accent that people usually use for Dracula.
Yeah.
So to be honest, like this whole segment before they get to the ship does drag a little bit, but holy shit is the specific like them hanging out stuff that is really fun, and it's probably the first time in the show that we have seen Picard this like loosey goosey with his staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly I liked this combo. I like this grouping.
I think it probably drags for us because we've seen it a bunch of times already.
That's possible.
It didn't drag for me.
I meant for me and Jeff.
Yeah. Okay, so then in the middle of Geordi explaining how like the plasma field felt, everything froze, and I thought it was my computer. I thought I had a technical problem for 1 second, and then it kept going, and I realized, it's the episode.
Yeah, because everyone's frozen except Troy.
Yeah, but like it just freezes on Geordi.
Yeah, and it's like a proper freeze frame too. It's not just him doing like a tableau.
Yeah. So we go back to Troy. She's like, "What the fuck?" And everyone's frozen for like 4 seconds or something. I didn't time it. Shoot, I should have. So they like scan everything. There's no physiological effects. Data is like his internal clock. The computer clock still matches. So this is really fucking weird. Geordi and Data run a diagnostic on the ship, and Troy explains the freezing moment to Picard. She's sort of like doing a reenactment, and then she freezes, and she actually ends up freezing for 3 minutes and 11 seconds. And so they're like, whoa, that is fucking wild. So Geordi runs a comparison of her bioscan from earlier when they got on the ship or something, and to right now, and the time between the two scans, she should have aged 23 minutes. But according to her cellular decay levels, she's only aged 20 minutes.
Because apparently you can track like to the minute how long somebody has aged now.
I also never thought about the fact of like I age by like however many minutes from one part to another. I never thought about it like that, and now I'm upset.
Yeah, well,
Good.
Here's the thing. I'm not sure if you can get that specific, but there is a way to track that. Like, okay, so sorry, my brain's all over the place. First of all, I give them some leeway. It is the future. I could plausibly see how that could be a thing in the future. And also, I think that currently there is a way to track that because we've done experiments with, like, time dilation and stuff in order to see, like... Because gravity affects time, right? So you actually age slower, like, in space, I believe? Or faster, I forget which.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've been able to, like, do experiments and show that people have, like, astronauts have aged slightly slower than people on Earth, than they would have if they were on Earth.
Huh. Okay, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Sorry to add another existential...
Space fear?
Yeah. Existential anxiety.
I'm just gonna call it space fear now.
Yeah.
It's my catalog of space fears.
Yeah. Actually, GPS satellites have to compensate for that. Like, they have to compensate for the fact that time moves at a different rate, like, where in orbit.
Wow, okay.
It's, like, very slight, but there is it's significant enough that it has to be compensated for.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so Picard is like, let's fucking step on it to get to the the Enterprise, like rendezvous immediately. Let's do it. So they're like cruising along, then engine failure. Starboard nacelle just cut out. They said attitude. I double checked it. It did say attitude, and I was like, I don't know what attitude control is, but attitude control is what they said.
Yeah,
attitude control is like the what do you call it? Direction of the ship.
Yeah,
Okay.
attitude.
They're not like, what's everyone's moods?
Yeah,
No, attitude is a measurement
What's
of
the vibe
three-dimensional
on the
space.
ship? Guys, attitude control. What's the vibe?
Yeah, attitude is it is a navigation term.
Okay.
But it is funny, like, out of context, if you don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know what it meant. And at first
Attitude
I was like,
adjustment.
Well, at first I thought it was like, did I totally mishear altitude? And then, but I was like, but they're in space. Is altitude a factor here? And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure so I don't fuck it up when I do my recap. And so I went back and I watched it, and he said, and Data said attitude. So I was like, okay. Okay, so the starboard antimatter pod is completely drained. Fuel reserves are empty. The engines are good, but no fuel. So Data says, okay, a lot of this episode, part of my recap is going to be just full out quotes, because a lot of this...
There's a lot of tech in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to mention, like, at the beginning of that, the part where they're just hanging out and Picard is doing the impression of that guy, that specific clip is in a, like, old school internet song that someone made of, like, Picard lines. And I've been waiting for this moment for so long, because I think that's, like, the final part of the song in the show, and we can finally play it for you.
Oh, nice. We can finally show you the Picard song.
Yeah.
It's literally just called the Picard song, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I look forward to it. Okay, so Data says, according to the plasma conversion sensor, the starboard engine has been in continuous operation for 47 days. So I was, before I really understood what was going on, I wrote, sorry, they've been doing this for 47 days? No, they have not been doing it for 47 days. And I clocked the rotten food on the table the second Picard walked in the room. I was like, that is disgusting. But he goes over to the console to check fuel logs, and he notices, then he notices the rotten food. And then he reaches for it, and maybe this is probably in my top 10 of gross things happening on TNG, which, to be fair, here's the thing. This is probably not something that grossed out a lot of people, but it did gross me out. So Picard goes and reaches for the rotten food because he realizes that it's rotten, and he starts screaming in pain. And then we look down, and one of his hands, just one, his nails have grown like an inch.
Yeah.
And that to me
it's
is
really gnarly.
So, yeah, like the idea of like nails growing that quickly. Would that hurt? I don't know, because that's the outside bit.
Well, yes,
that
it
just
would hurt.
But
Yeah.
like, Jesus, that grossed me out so much.
Yeah. I like I'm not grossed out very easily, but anything with like eyeballs or nails gets me.
No, see, it's, to me, this falls under body horror, and I can't. And body horror is I can't.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Body horror is like one of my favorite things. I absolutely love body horror, except eyeball stuff and nail stuff.
No, anything with body, I can't. Ugh.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, so Troy then, she scans him, and she's like, "Oh, your cells are metabolizing at a." Like 50 times more than normal. So, then we look, oh my God, the food has rotted even more. It looks like beef in a bad way.
Yeah, it's a bit like, you know, when like the vegetables are on the crisp for too long and they become soup. That's basically,
It's pretty gross. So Data is detecting a temporal disturbance. Okay, I wrote disturbance. Probably the most times I've ever written disturbance ever in my entire life. In this, in my notes for this episode. So he's detecting a temporal disturbance intersecting the table.
A disturbance in the force.
Yeah. It
In the time
appears that
force.
within the disturbance, time is moving at an accelerated rate, approximately 50 times faster than normal. And it's spherical in shape. Honestly, this shit doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
They detect a bunch of fucking
They're time spheres.
disturbances.
Yeah, there's like
fucking of shit like, around them.
Yeah, there's like invisible bubbles where within the bubble the time moves like either slower or faster. Like it's varied.
So they plot a course to leave and to get to the Enterprise, and they basically have to go through like basically a field of these fucking things. And Geordi's like, it's almost as if something has shattered the space-time continuum. Honestly, if this could be a drinking game, every time someone says space-time continuum, you die of alcohol poisoning in this episode. So they finally reach the coordinates of where they're supposed to meet the Enterprise, and gasp, Enterprise is not there. So I was like, either they're super early or super late. One of the two. But they're like, there's a signal, let's just keep going. And then they find the Enterprise frozen in the midst of what looks to be a battle. It's not a battle. So both Enterprise and a Romulan warbird are in different fragments, and it seems to be converging right there. This is the center of the temporal disturbances. Like, okay. So Data can't really scan the ships for life. They can't board the Enterprise at the moment, because if they do, then they're just frozen in time also. So Data says that, like, wherever we land, we're basically going to take on the form of whatever the time zone is on that.
They'll just
space.
be majorly jet lagged when they get there.
Yeah. So we need to like figure shit out. So they're just gonna program some armband. They explain more. I can't. But they're gonna, do a thing to an armband for the group so they don't. I wrote change time zones. I don't know. So they're like fields or something, I don't know, but they'll last like an hour and you can still talk. Like,
the armbands are like emergency transporter thingies. So they're basically gonna create some sort of tech field so that they have a little personal bubble of like their own like time continuum.
Yeah. So they should be fine.
Yeah.
So they pop back to the Enterprise. No, Geordi doesn't. Data, Picard, and Troy goes to the Enterprise. They land on the bridge, and we got Tableau number 1. Riker looks like he's fallen to the floor, and we've got a Romulan leaning over him. And it looks, at first glance, oh no, the Romulan has pushed Riker. Is that the truth? We'll find out. Tableau number 2, crew member on the floor, Romulan at the console. What's going on there? We'll find out. So then they, it's funny though, it kind of, the way that these, like those two sort of scenes are set, it kind of looks like either a high school production of something, or like, like shitty Polaroids that people take in like movies that they put at the end in credits. That's what it looked like to me also. like I think in like the Hangover movie, the first one, maybe they did something like that. That's what it made me think of. So, so Picard also learns that you can move stuff in his time, his time bubble. So, so Data says that there was a power surge in engineering. So, and then teams were sent to Transporter Room 3 and Sickbay. So they can't use the lift. So then they're like, all right, to the Jeffries tube. They get to a certain point. They can't. There's already people in there. So they have to, we don't know what the alternative route is. They just split off, and we follow Troy to Sickbay. And we immediately see Tableau number 3. 2 crew members frozen in absolute like gasp. And we turn. Oh my God, Dr. C's being shot in the stomach. Yeah. The way I gasped also when I saw this. And Troy runs out, and on her way, she brushes against another Romulan, who I thought unfroze, but also wanted to note that this Romulan actually, I did make a nickname for this Romulan and a different Romulan that we meet later. Mm-hmm. But maybe I'll reveal it when the time comes, because it's too early for the reveal. But I do want to note that this Romulan had lipstick on. So I guess it's important in Romulus that we know who the women are, because they gotta wear the lipstick, you guys.
Yeah.
Because I very much looked at the men to see if they had any lipstick. Nope, just this woman. Okay.
I mean, the human women wear lipstick too.
Yeah, but it just feels like the Romulans, if everything's supposed to be so uniform, that I would assume no one would wear makeup.
Yeah,
or they would
true.
all wear makeup. I wouldn't think that one or the other. I would just assume everyone or no one. Yeah. What's the point of making all these uniforms so unbelievable? Like this, they've got the same haircut, they've got the same everything. Why have someone have makeup and someone doesn't?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me in that respect. So Transporter Room 3, Picard gets there, has 3 Romulans coming in off the platform. Worf is at the control panel, and Worf dead-eyed.
Yeah.
Just truly dead eyes at the
That's one of the things I noticed is everyone like doing like being like frozen and stuff. Like all the actors did such a good job, and
they did, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they must have had some help in post.
So here's the thing. You can actually give credit to Adam Nimoy a bit for this, because he purposely made sure that most of the shots of actors staying still were going to be, if they were in focus, then they were going to be moving shots, which would hide the fact that they were. It would hide little twitches and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I mean, that was an excellent decision.
Yeah. No, it looked really good.
And I think removing like eye blinks and stuff has been like they like TVs and film have been able to do that for quite a while. So I think they might have had to do
That's
some of that.
That's possible, but it depends on how much they wanted to spend doing it. They might have just said, "Don't blink."
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that whole the frozen and then the time movement thing looked honestly pretty decent.
Yeah.
So Picard sees that Worf transported a total of 6 Romulans on board, but they're all unarmed. So Picard is confused as to why they were beamed on during a battle. So Data requests Picard to engineering immediately. So Data's like, I think I figured out the cause of the power surge, and then we just like cut to the warp core is like process of exploding.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, Data, good job. You did it. Sherlock Holmes did it again. You nailed it.
Yeah.
So that's the flashpoint of a warp core explosion, and it is still expanding, even though everything is frozen. So Data has realized that time is, in fact, still moving.
Yeah. Just super slow.
He says specifically
infinitesimal.
Yeah, right. And I looked that up, and that means extremely small.
Yeah.
So, nailed it. Then they're like, oh yeah, the Enterprise is like gonna explode or something in 9 hours, 17 minutes. Another countdown. Love it. But they're the whole time, it's so funny. Picard is just like, but what if we like undo the, like, how do we prevent or undo this explosion? And Data every time is like, we can't.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. We're not going backwards in time.
Yeah, it's
We're just
already
frozen.
happened. Yeah.
And Picard says this multiple times. He's like, how do we undo this? How do we fix this? And Data's just like, man, like, we fucking can't. It's happening. I don't know what to do with it, but it's happening. And so, meep. So Data doesn't really know what caused the breach, but the console display indicates a power transfer is in progress between the Enterprise and the Romulan ship. And at the moment, okay, we're good. The power transfer in progress between the two ships happened at the moment in time that it happened, and that's when time decelerated, and that's why there's a second beam going through the ship. So it makes sense, I promise. Okay. Then Troy and Data think maybe they should check out what's going on the Romulan ship, but Picard just starts laughing. And I made a note, screenshot at, I think it's about minute 57 seconds. Picard, we cut to Picard, and he's laughing hysterically at the little core explosion of the smoke, and he drew a happy face in it.
Yep.
And I was like, I thought something was legit wrong. Something was wrong, but like I thought like Picard for some reason was turning evil. I don't know. That's like my go-to. I feel like whenever I hear maniacal laughing.
Yeah, this moment is an iconic screenshot from the show.
Okay, good, because like I've never seen this image before, and it might be one of my favorite images from the whole show.
Picard just pointing and laughing at like the smiley face he drew and like the
smoke,
cloud.
It's pretty hilarious. So Picard is kind of suffering from what I'm gonna call time sickness.
Yeah.
And so they go back to the shuttle, and Geordi is like, "Hey, folks, new rules. We're not as super protected as we thought. We're gonna travel together, and we are doing 10 minutes at a time." So Picard's gonna stay on the shuttle, and Troy, Geordi, and Data will go to the Romulan engine room because Troy knows about the layout from her kidnapping. So cool. Let's bring that up more.
Although at least they're making use of her knowledge. Like it's
So the Romulan ship is on evacuation alert, and so Geordi finds an energy feedback returning through the transfer beam, and that's probably what overloaded the Enterprise's engines, causing the core breach. So the Romulans were trying to shut down the power transfer, so they weren't... Okay, so I was like, okay, I thought they were trying to blow up the... I thought that it was like a gag. Like, I thought that it was like initially a, like, kind of, like a ruse. I thought they were like, oh, pretend that all this shit is happening just so we can lure the Enterprise and then blow them up.
Yeah.
Because there was some shit also that I still don't think... I will not accept the reasoning they gave in the episode. I will not accept it. And so, no, they're not trying to do that. They're not trying to destroy the Enterprise. That is not what's going on at all. So, okay, the Romulan energy core is actually completely inactive, but Troy says that's impossible. The Romulans use an artificial quantum singularity as their power source. Once it's activated, it can't be shut down. So Geordi just like casually slides open this hatch on the wall and is like, there's the problem. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what we're looking at, Geordi. So, okay, this is the quote from Data. It appears to be a highly focused aperture in the space-time continuum. Its energy signature matches that of the temporal fragments we observed earlier. However, it is approximately 1.2 million times as intense. I believe this may be the origin of the temporal fragmentation. Great. There's also some like dark spots, and they're like, it may be organic material. So the aperture the aperture gets activated, and then like time unfreezes on the Romulan ship, but like one weird guy notices the crew, and he's like very weird about it. And the shot is very weird about it. They make it seem like he is like a spy. I don't know, they make it seem like he's really up to no good. So Picard just like watches from the Enterprise. He watches from the shuttle, and then the Enterprise just like explodes, and then it reverse explodes. Like, no, that's just an implosion. That doesn't make sense either. So it just like doesn't explode.
Like the episode rewinds.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, we're going backwards now. Okay, I think I know where we're going with this. So then time froze again. So Data thinks that the tricorder caused the aperture to activate, which caused the defrost, if you will. Picard wants to know what's happening on the Romulan bridge, but Geordi's like, wait. Geordi's at the control panel, and he just turns and he's like, you guys, who the fuck is this bitch? There's just some guy standing there, just some Romulan. And the said bitch grabs Geordi and like electrocutes him or something. I don't know. He takes Geordi down. And so Geordi is now in neural shock and he's dying. So Troy takes the armband off Geordi to put a pin in his dying for now.
Yeah.
I was like, what the
They
fuck?
also don't really address that later. Like, we kind of just forget about Geordi a bit.
I think they do mention that he's on the bridge. I feel like someone mentions it very briefly later, but it's like, I feel like it should be more urgent. Geordi's dying.
Yeah, you know what? You're correct. You're correct. Picard
the thing is that this episode is absolutely full of problems happening simultaneously, which is not something that our crew is usually dealing with, obviously.
They don't usually write episodes this way.
No. And once they get to the end, they kind of got to wrap everything up quickly, and I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have introduced so many problems then.
Because there's issues. Okay, so Data does a bioscan of the other guy who may not be a Romulan because he's not native to their time continuum. And then I thought of the nickname for this guy, and then the other person who was in the sick bay. Okay. Admittedly, not my best work. But I was like, I wanted something distinct, like different. They're Nomulans because that's not a Romulan. So they're a Nomulan. Which also kind of like made me giggle when I was writing my notes because I spelt it no Mulan. Anyways, God. So that's who it is. I'm calling them Nomulans. So the Nomulan wakes up, says like, oh, he needed to assume the body to exist in this time. They're trying to save their young from dying in the gravity well, aka the Romulan engine core. I was like, you guys have lost me. What the fuck are you even talking about? What is happening?
Yeah.
And I was like, how did they even get there? And the Nomulan's like, oh, they were sent there to get them out and go back to their time. I'm like, what? How? What is happening? And they must use a natural gravity well to incubate their young. They thought the Romulan core would suffice. It did not. I was like, what is fucking going on?
I'm foreseeing a lot of issues for you when we get to DS9 because there is some of this weird bullshit with like people existing outside of our time.
No.
Oh,
I don't have a problem with people existing outside of the time. It's the logic. It's this whole point of like, yeah, we just were like, the Romulan core will do. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know. They haven't met the Romulans. They're not buddies.
So they use.
I know
they
do explain. They do say that they thought it was a black hole.
Yeah,
but
because
still,
that's what
happening.
They use like the fancy terminology, but that's what a quantum singularity is a black hole. It's
just like, I don't understand. Like, if they're from a different time, I don't understand how it got to this one, though.
It's because, like, even though they're from a separate time, I think they can still, like,
see the same ship interact in the same place.
Yeah, the thing is that black holes, like, also fuck with time as well.
Yeah, because I don't like to think about black holes too hard.
Yeah, but black holes are the gravitational pull is so strong that it actually immensely slows down time the closer you get to the core of it.
Yeah. So it's possible that the black hole is like could be a conduit like between the different time continuums.
It's like, fine, use a black hole.
Yeah, the guy explains that, like, the way their species work, they nest in black holes.
Which is, like, that's fine. I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
It's the, like, how do you mistake
No, they
like, I can't picture what they're like, what they would be looking at when they're like,
Well-
let's use that one.
well, their species might not have realized that it was artificial. Like, they may not have known that was
They just
possible.
randomly were like, hey, that's one. We don't really know what the fuck it's doing in a thing, but let's go do that.
Well, they
Yeah.
don't know what a thing is.
That's why I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you go into a thing you don't know what it is?
He did flat out say that they were like desperate and they couldn't find anything, and they were like, well, we settled on this because it was the only thing around.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like
I
an
still don't
emergency.
like this.
Yeah, it was an emergency situation for them. They're like, we need to use a natural one, but we're desperate, and there's this artificial one. Maybe we can make this work. But obviously
I still don't
not.
like this. I still don't like this twist.
That's fair.
No, yeah,
So-
the actual like.
It just
The
feels
actual
very
twist is
loopy.
kinda dumb.
It feels very like, okay, quick, guys, we need to end this episode. What do we
Yes.
fucking do? Quick.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
think,
it feels like.
Yeah, I think
it feels weak.
Yeah,
it feels very weak.
Yeah, I think we were arguing about, well, not arguing, but like I think we were like talking about two different things. Like I thought like what you were meaning was like just the general logic within the episode of like why they would do this. But I totally agree that like no, this is a very like
It just feels sloppy.
yeah, it's like
That-
I don't
that's, like,
know I
it's-
don't know how to actually resolve this, so
Yeah.
weird time aliens.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like, I get, sure, the like, loosey-goosey logic of it, but to me, I'm just like, this feels like very just thrown together of like, well,
Oh.
we just used this artificial one for fucking whatever, for emergency. What are you guys, what writers? It's not even like the aliens, it's the writers. What the fuck are you guys even talking about at this
Yeah,
point? What is happening?
I totally agree with you on that point. It is the resolution is not satisfying, and it's
Yeah.
it's clearly not,
It's messy.
not very well thought out.
So basically,
I
this
actually
is-
wanted to
oh,
point something out about that. The episode was rushed. He started writing the script 8 days before they were shooting.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So basically, this is because they tried to use the engine as a nest. That's what deactivated the Warbird's engine core. So the Romulans sent out the distress call. The Enterprise responded. They were doing a power transfer because the Enterprise thought that they needed like a jump start, I think, but they didn't. So they're sending a power transfer to the Romulan ship, which would basically like fry the babies, I guess. And so because of that, they shot at the Enterprise to stop, I guess. They wanted to stop the Nomulans wanted to stop the power transfer. But when the power transfer came in contact with the nest, it disrupted the space-time continuum. Okay. So
Yeah.
then the Nomulans attacked the Enterprise. Then this Nomulan on the ship was like, oh, there's also another. And I'm like, so that other bitch who was in sickbay, who was never frozen, but just like lightly moved after Troy went by them. So that's who we're still looking for.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, wait, so if there's only two, what was going on with Riker? And why is that guy shooting Dr. C? So then the Enterprise is now scheduled to explode in 7 hours and 2 minutes, because we're still on that, I guess. So Picard's like, hey, Data, why don't you try pointing the tricorder at the aperture, and we'll see if it causes time to move forward then backward. Oh, because when you did that, it went forward then backwards. Can we do the reverse, make it go back then forwards? And this way we can go back before the warp breach the core and then prevent the power transfer. And Data's like, I will fuck around and find out with this tricorder, I guess. And he sets that plan into motion, which results in Dr. C no longer being shot and no more warp core breach. Just kidding. That's also kind of not true.
Yeah. Because that stupid Nomulan
but
bitch
I'm-
got in the way.
Yeah, I'm reading in my order. So then the other Nomulan finds Data and tackles him. And so time freezes, then it kind of freezes, then goes back and then forward. But Data just like, he just needs like a second to recover. And he just like pops back up and is like, hey, shut it down. And then, but the guy's like, sorry, already did it, I guess. And Data's like, oh no. Hey, computer, place the containment field around the warp core. And so then, when it, whatever, it's fine. It's all fine. And then we see what actually happened on the Enterprise bridge. So the guy who was originally, this is Tableau number 2, by the way, guy at the control panel who was lying on the floor, the crew member, he just got shocked by the panel and he went flying backwards. And the Romulan stepped in to help. Then Riker got knocked down in a ship shake and the other Romulan helps him up. That's Tableau number 1. The Romulan shooting Dr. C, however, I refuse to believe this. This is bullshit to me.
Yeah, the way they shot it is not, the explanation doesn't really make sense.
They're like, he was trying to shoot at the Nomulan. What are you talking about? Look how he's literally point blank range. They are literally 3 feet apart. What are they even talking about? Because it's not like, Dr. C is like, would be holding someone. She's not in a like posed position for that. She's literally in the midst of being like shot. Like she's being shot. Like the laser is touching her. It's not like it's on its way to her. It's touching her already. So like this Tableau is bullshit to me. That's why I was so confused.
What they're trying to say, like what they meant for to be happening is that the Romulan was shooting at the Nomulan, and maybe while he was shooting, like let's say the Nomulan was like running across the room. The Romulan was trying to shoot her, and then accidentally, while he was trying to track the Nomulan, Dr. C was right there, so he accidentally shot her while he was trying to shoot the Nomulan. However, the way they blocked this Tableau, like, made that very, like,
unlikely. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Implausible. Yeah.
That's why I was like, maybe this is like a ruse. That's why I came up with that whole theory, because I was like, there's no way. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I'm so confused. So I refuse to believe that is correct.
Anytime you think that the show is trying to and I don't mean as you specifically, I mean like the general you. Anytime you think this show is trying to be clever, it is not.
No, it's not. Yeah. Oh, TNG, why you gotta be like this? Okay, so the transfer beam is still going through though, but Picard's like, hey, great idea. I'm gonna send that shuttle to between the transfer and the beams to interrupt. Okay. So that blows up. The Romulan ship disappears. Core breach avoided. All the space and time shit back to where they should be. And then, which this should have been where the episode ended. Riker's like, what the fuck happened, Captain? And the Picard's like, it's going to take a little time to explain, number 1. And then I wrote, drum shot.
Yeah.
And that's where it should have ended. Did it end there? No. We got one more scene. Honestly, useless.
Yeah.
I was like, they had such a perfect ending of that. Like, Picard could have looked at the camera and winked, and they could have done that like shot where, they zoom in on him and like, I can't remember what it's actually called. And like everything goes like black, but then like zoom in on his face and then like a sparkle and disappears. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But instead they're like, okay. Riker enters Data's quarters, and Data is, he's like, yeah, I'm interested in how humans perceive the passage of time, because either, things feel like they go by really fast or really slow. I'm like, this is going very slow, Data. This scene is going very slow.
Yeah, they're oops, we didn't write enough episodes, so let's insert some Data wants to be human bullshit.
Yeah, so he has now boiled water 62 times to see how quickly water boils. And Riker's like, cool. Don't be late for your shift, man.
Yeah. Well, so Data says, like, because there's the phrase, like, a watched pot never boils. Yeah. So he's like, I've boiled the water, like, a bunch of times, and then sometimes I watched it, sometimes I went and did other stuff, but it was always, like, the same. And he's like, my internal clock, or he calls it an internal chronometer. My internal chronometer, like, always shows it boiling at, like, the same rate. And then Riker's like, well, why don't you just turn off your internal clock? Like, as if that won't cause massive problems. Like, Y2K, they had to do all this fucking work to make sure computers didn't freak out because the date would be confusing to the computer. So, like, sorry, I just have beef with this because, asking Data to turn off his internal chronometer is, like, it's a big deal, actually.
I mean, he could just sync it with the clock at the end.
True, but I feel like that would mess with his internal functions quite a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, but they weren't thinking about that. This was, like, 1993.
Oh, I mean, of course, but,
or 92, like, whatever.
I know that, but it's still, like, I'm like, Riker, that's probably a bigger deal than what you think it is to just turn off his internal chronometer.
Just turn off your clock.
Yeah.
Also, here's a question. How the fuck was Riker feeding Spot that he got scratched in the face?
Well, he said he was, like...
it.
Yeah, he said he was, like, putting the bowl down, and he turned around, and all of a sudden, like, Spot, like, leaped at him.
What the fuck, Spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was, like, I enjoyed the beginning. I enjoyed it to a point. I really liked, Picard, Geordi, Data, Troy, them hanging out. And I liked, that we're okay into a time freeze, whatever mystery. I'm on board for that. I liked their little investigating. I just hate this twist. I hate what was really going on. It just is so dumb to me.
Brendan Braga is, like, he's good at the mystery part, not very good at the solution part. Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
I still like. I was just gonna say I still like this episode. But yeah, the solution is not very satisfying. I think just, like, as a Trekkie, I've just made peace with that. Because
it happens a lot.
Yeah, it happens a lot where the ending isn't very satisfying. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just enjoy the ride.
No, see, I never learn. I will be upset every time, be shocked that I'm upset every single time.
And that is totally, and you know what? You should be.
You know what? Because you know what? When TNG is good, it's fucking good. Mm-hmm. And so it kills me when they go, like, sloppy, because it's like, you got God, I feel like someone's, like, parent.
Yeah.
Like, you got so much potential. You're wasting your potential.
Yeah. But they got to crank out an episode every week, and they got to crank out, like, 25 of them.
A year,
but
yeah.
Like, yeah. But I just feel like, I don't know, do better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like...
30 years later, do better.
Yeah. It's one of those things of just, like, as, like, a longtime Trekkie, it's, like, I've grown accustomed to the abuse. Oh, no. But the highs are so high, but then it turns around and does this.
Well, as someone who's only been in the fandom for 4-ish years, mm-hmm. I am angry.
Yeah. And you should be.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there's not much that will get me to stop being upset over things.
Yeah.
But, God. But at the very least, this is like, the episode is over.
Yeah.
Fair. I personally have always enjoyed watching this episode because even when you know what's happening, mm-hmm. A lot of what is, partially because when you know what's happening, you know that it's deeply unsatisfying anyway. But everything getting to that is still a lot of fun. Like there is a lot of it's a plot heavy episode. And that's fine because the plot remains interesting even if you know the twist.
Yeah, definitely.
See, that's the thing with me is like if I don't like the conclusion, that kind of affects the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, just stop being like that then.
That's fair.
Yeah, sure, because I'm known for learning and showing growth on this podcast.
Yeah, precisely.
I'm not known for being stubborn in my opinions at all. No, if there's like a kind of shit ending to something, it kind of dings my whole perception of the entity as a whole.
Oh,
it
for
can
sure.
To me. I think it depends very much on what it is. Like I personally gravitate towards character-focused things quite a bit, and when there is like a very unsatisfying resolution for a character, then I'm just like, oh my god, what the absolute fuck. And it can ruin it for me because I spent time connecting with that character, and then what they get out of it doesn't interest me, and I'm like, well, I don't care to see what happens to them anymore. But when it's something like this where it's a very silly plot to begin with, here's some time spheres all over the place. Enjoy. They just wanted an excuse to do cool stuff with stuff being frozen in time. In fact, the pitch for the episode was, what if the Enterprise was stuck in time like a bug frozen in amber? And I'm just like, wow, Jurassic Park came out that year, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it was 93.
Yep, there we go.
Also, the reason why our basketball team is called the Raptors is because...
Oh, yes, because Jurassic Park was popular at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And
they had a contest.
I do absolutely love the fucking quote, though. An artificial pocket of time when they're talking about the fucking magic armbands, and I'm like, oh my god, that is such a stupid phrase.
Yeah. Is this the first instance of magic armbands? Because it becomes a thing in Star Trek.
No, it isn't. They've used them for... In fact, they actually used them in order to get to... They used them for a time thing before. Remember Time Zero?
Yes.
That's how they got back in time. They used magic armbands.
Right, yeah. The magic armband trope becomes a big thing in, like, Voyager.
Oh, doesn't ever.
Boy.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, the Doctor's entire existence can be owed to a magic armband for most of the series, but yeah.
True. Or more like a magic brooch at that point.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Even though he puts it on his arm. So I just wanted to say about my thing with, like, disappointing endings. For me, it's kind of like, it depends on, like, how much investment I've put in it. Like, for example, Game of Thrones. Like, I never started watching Game of Thrones, but I've had similar experiences with other shows. But I can't really think of, like, any specific examples at the moment for me personally. But for Game of Thrones, like, if I had been watching that and I put all this investment in it and the ending was just such shit, like, that taints the whole thing for me, right?
Yep, that's exactly what happened to... Yeah, there's been a lot of shows. Game of Thrones, The 100, never finished it because they... God. They just... I got to near the end of The 100 and it was so good, and then... Right, the last season, it wasn't the last episode, it was a few episodes for then, they kill off a main character for no fucking reason. It made absolutely no narrative sense, and it was like one of my favorite characters, and I was like, none of this made sense, and I never finished it.
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't make any sense, and I'm like, I'm not going back to the show. All my interest of it is like gone.
Yeah, I used to watch this Australian show called Glitch, I think it was, and the premise was that, like, people suddenly start, like, reappearing even though they've been, like, dead for a while, and, like...
Oh, shit.
But after the first season, it started getting, like, extremely convoluted in, like, not an interesting way, and so I just never continued watching it.
That's fair.
Yeah, if it's, like, a singular episode, I'm like, if the build-up, like, the lead-up to the disappointing ending is good enough, like, I will I'll just deal with it, right? Because that's not the most huge investment for me. With movies, it's tricky. Like, the lead up to the bad ending has to be fucking incredible for me to suffer through a movie with a unsatisfying ending.
That's fair, yeah.
But yeah, smaller scale stuff, like a single episode of Star Trek, is like, that to me, it's like, the rest of the episode is good enough that, like, I'll do it. And also, like, with things like Star Trek, it's, at this point for me, it's an in the background kind of show.
Okay.
So, like, when it's more of a show where you have to, like, fully pay attention and be invested, like, at every moment, it's like, okay, like, this better be going somewhere good.
As someone who sits at least 2 hours to watch an episode with a pen in hand. Yeah, that's why this makes me angry.
Yeah, that's fair. So I think this is a good place to move on to favorite lines and moments.
Okay. I liked the beginning chunk. I liked, like, Dr. C treating Riker for his spot injury. Mm-hmm. I loved Picard, Troy, Data, and Geordi having their, like, chat and impressions in the shuttle. And I liked their dynamic. I thought that was fun. And then I liked Picard just laughing at the happy face in the cloud. And I did like Picard's last line of the episode, that it's going to take a little time to explain, number one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. For me, I did like the way that, like, putting aside that the solution to the mystery is, like, really unsatisfying. I did like the build up to it. I liked how, how the episode laid out the pieces, laid out the clues and stuff like that. I think it would have been a little more interesting if we didn't know that. It's hard to say because I've seen this episode so many times, so I think it would have been more interesting if we hadn't known that the Enterprise was responding to, like, a distress call. Like, it would have been more interesting if, like, we'd stuck with just, Picard, Data, Troy, and Geordi, and then we completely blind, having the audience having absolutely no idea what's happening, stumble upon this scene, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so then we're figuring it out along with the crew, right? Whereas the way they structured it, you as the audience sort of, like, they say at the beginning, like, this could be a trick by the Romulans, but you have a clue that, like, maybe it's not. And when you start seeing the clues that point to it being a real rescue, like, you're like, oh, okay, so this wasn't an attack, but the characters are still under the premise that it's an attack, so it can get, like, sometimes that can work. Like, sometimes, like, you as the audience having more knowledge than the characters can be very interesting, but I don't think, like, that quite worked for this. That being said, I still thought the way that the mystery leading up to the ultimate solution was interesting. So yeah, that's my favorite bit of the episode.
I really enjoy the moment where Troy walks into sickbay and sees that frozen image of the Doctor getting shot. Mm-hmm. And, like, when I was a kid, I was just like, oh man, that is really fucking, like, cool, but also uncomfortable to see. And, like, now, many years later, like, I sit there and see that moment, and even though it's like a time episode and I know how it resolves and all that, seeing that, and then her going down to the captain and trying to, like, sputter it out while he is clearly distracted by something else entirely. And when she tells him and he just kind of freezes for a moment, and I'm like, mm-hmm. Oh man, that's they treat that respectfully, and I like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the episode has so fucking much going on that it doesn't really take the time to sit on it for a while.
Yeah.
And then, like so many other things, it gets resolved in like 5 seconds later on, and it's like, there are many instances to this episode that I really, or the many instances in this episode that I really enjoy, and it's too bad that those instances end up feeling isolated in the end.
Yeah, I think an episode can work with all the same pieces, like with having that much stuff happening, but they didn't do the greatest job of juggling it all.
No, definitely not.
We've had discussions before about how the episode like tried to do too much, and I don't necessarily think that's the case in this episode. I just think they didn't. I don't think this is too much for one episode. I just think they didn't do a great job of it.
I think the amount of problems that they run into are too much, simply because several of them end up not actually amounting to anything and don't really contribute to anything. Like Geordi suddenly getting taken out, for instance, is very pointless. And I mean, the episode is kind of derivative of what's that other one that
I was thinking that the one with Geordi and Ro, right?
Yeah, that's the one. There we go. Yeah, it's very derivative of that in its approach to the story. That it's even using the same the same set pieces basically.
Yeah, and it has the same reveal of the Romulan who's actually like in the same like phase as them.
Yeah, like, geez, fake Romulans? There's a lot of those.
Yeah.
But
that was
a
real
Romulan,
but
yeah,
it was
I know.
It was a reveal that he was also phased along with them.
Sadly, there is one more Brannon Braga episode that we will come to eventually, and I won't drop any spoilers for it, just that it takes this same approach where there's like a mystery at the beginning and they're figuring out the mystery, but they really fuck it up, and then they show you them figuring out the mystery all over again later on in the episode. And like, I'm thankful that isn't what happened in this, that there were two mysteries, and that the first one of them, like figuring out the time problem and then figuring out how to fucking fix it, are separate things. So I preferred that. Probably could have approached it better, but I still enjoy watching it.
Yeah, they probably could have sped up, like, them figuring out the time shit. Like, they probably didn't need to spend that much time on it, and then they would have had, like, additional room for maybe a more satisfying ending, or,
actually, what... I was thinking on that while I was watching the episode, because I knew what was coming, and I realized they actually spend a lot of time just getting around the ship and not actually learning anything about the problem. They're just kind of showing you cool set pieces around the ship, which I enjoy. That's like part of the ride, but maybe they should have like settled on either doing the time mystery at the beginning or settled on going for a set piece heavy episode, because I think doing both ends up kind of not flowing super well.
Yeah, and, like, the part where they're like, oh, we'll take the Jeffries tubes, and then they run into, like, the part where it's, like, blocked, where, like, there's the frozen people where they need to go. We didn't need that. Like, you could have just said, like, oh, we'll get to wherever we're going through the Jeffries tube, and then just have them be there. Like, that was kind of pointless. Because it didn't amount to anything. The fact that they had to go around and find a different route did not matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's move on to predictions for the next episode. So, the next episode is the season finale. It's called Descent Part 1.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, in this episode, Data has a tumultuous reunion and has a lot of feelings about it.
Oh my god. Is it with Lore? Oh, it's gotta be with Lore. Oh my god. Oh, okay. I'm on board. Okay. So I am assuming Data has a reunion with Lore, in case I haven't made that clear. Yeah, I imagine that would cause feelings, and I'm assuming he's gonna have some kind of, not breakdown, but like, oh my god, what if Lore, okay, Okay, here we go. What if Lore takes the thing out of him that gives him the human emotions? Because didn't the doctor put that in him last time? Because he was going to put it in Data, but then put it in Lore instead. Yeah, because Lore tricked him or something.
Yeah, Dr. Sun put it in Lore, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What if either Lore puts his in Data, or he made a dupe and put it in Data, and maybe Data doesn't understand it or doesn't realize it, and he's just like all of a sudden flooded with these emotions that he doesn't understand or know how to deal with. Because that, oh my god, it's like Data being like a teenage boy.
So, two
Data
questions.
going through emotional puberty.
All right, so 2 questions just to add on.
Okay.
How do you think they run into Lore, and what do you think he's been up to?
They just casually run into each other in the mall. No, I'm kidding. No, okay, where would they run into each other? Okay, on a planet. No, they're on a new planet. I feel like maybe, because on one hand, I feel like it's okay. For looking at the Lore side of it, it's got to be on purpose, because Lore is sneaky little guy, and I would not put it past him to set something up to like fuck with Data on purpose. So I can't, or I'm also going, this is based clear only on my prediction. So the idea that Lore is going to implant Data with emotions, okay, where would it be? I almost wonder if like Lore would go somewhere knowing that like pretend to be Data to get into like a certain amount of access to something, so then when Data goes to that same spot, he has this like the same access, and so then it's a lot easier for him to like get it. But I suppose he could just see Data out on like the fucking street. Data's not going to be like, run, it's Lore. God, where would it be? San Francisco. No, I'm joking.
It doesn't have to be a specific like location. Like, you know, it's like, oh, they like, you know, he attacks the ship, or you know, he's there.
No,
while
I don't
they're
think he'd
exploring.
attack the ship.
Yeah.
I don't think he attacks the ship. No.
Okay.
I feel like maybe there'd be okay. I might be getting very off track here, but say there's like a big discovery of something, and Laura's like, oh, the fucking Enterprise is going to come here, because it's not that it's like this is something Picard would be fucking jazzed about, because at this point I feel like everyone knows Picard has a boner for archaeology.
Yeah.
So I feel like he'd be like, oh, they would like absolutely come here. Like this is like too big a deal. And Picard loves to tell people about this shit. So he'd be like, he'd definitely bring the gang, and I'll just hang out here until, you know, they show up, and then I'll like sneak up on Data, be like, surprise, bitch. And then, you know, fuck around and find out, I guess.
All right. So what do you think he's been up to this whole time?
Oh my God. What hasn't he been up to? Online shopping. No, I'm joking. Hobbies. Lego.
Well, if it's Lore, then he usually has like a dastardly plan. So
yeah.
So what's he
crypto
trying to,
schemes?
Yeah, what's he trying to pull off? Yeah.
I feel like, here's the thing. I don't remember a ton about Lore's personality. I can't remember. Like, I am assuming that he's like super smart, like Data. But for also, I keep thinking that like he's not as smart as Data, but I feel like that also might just be because Data talks so, like that, like talk like that. So like,
yeah.
In my head, I'm like, that's a smart guy.
Yeah, Lore is very ambitious and has like little to no like ethics or morals. And,
so he's the CEO of Tesla?
Yeah, exactly.
Zing.
So he is as smart as Data, but that sort of like ambition and stuff can sometimes lead him to make dumb decisions.
So invest in crypto. I'm still
Yeah.
thinking that's
still going. All right, so
Yeah.
so they run into Lore trying to convert a planet to crypto.
Listen. At this point, I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah. Alrighty. I think I'll let you off the hook there. I think we got enough. If you want to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.